Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we speak with Arizona Republican Attorney General candidate Rodney Glassman. Also tonight, a closer look at the indictment of former FBI Director James Comey, and we'll hear about a conference focused on bringing national attention to issues regarding extreme heat. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. We begin tonight's show with our AZ Votes Candidates in Conversation as we hear from one of the Republican candidates running for Attorney General. We welcome Rodney Glassman, a private attorney who serves in the U.S. Air Force Judge Advocate General's Corps Reserves. We should note that Senate President Warren Peterson is also running for Attorney General in the Republican primary. Peterson was invited to participate tonight, but he declined that invitation. Rodney, good to see you again. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate your time and for you being here. Why are you running for this office?
Ted, I'm running for Attorney General to protect our law enforcement, to protect our kids, and to protect Arizona's prosperity. Arizona's in a crazy place right now. As you know, President Trump won Arizona by over 5 percentage points in 2024. But we right now have what I describe as an insane Democrat Attorney General who has sued the Trump administration 41 times in the past 16 months. And we need an Attorney General that's going to be more focused on protecting Arizonans, and that's why I'm running.
Well, let's get right to that. I think it's 41 times here. The latest was the ICE facility in Surprise. You would not have fought the feds on that particular facility, turning a warehouse into a human detention center?
Ted, what I've said consistently is that because of the fact that Chris Mays ran on suing President Trump, on suing to make sure that biological boys can compete against girls, to create what I describe as a resistance resume, every single decision that Chris Mays has made since she's gotten into office is suspect because of the fact that all she's doing is attacking our Arizona way of life.
But the question stands, would you have fought? I mean, people on Surprise, they're not happy with this thing, and now it looks like funding for it has been paused, and she's filed suit against it. Would you have filed it? It's one thing to say you support the president. It's another to say that particular idea is not a good one.
And Ted, one of the challenges that Chris Mays has, and I'll answer the question, is that Chris Mays has never practiced law. I'm sure you've hired an attorney before, and so have many of your viewers. When you hire an attorney, it's not always to file a lawsuit. Sometimes it's just to work on a solution. So as Attorney General, what I would have done and what I will do as Attorney General, anytime there's a challenge where there's an issue that Arizona needs an answer from the federal government, I'm going to pick up the phone. And that's the problem we have now. Every time that Chris Mays feels that she can raise money, she files a lawsuit, she sends out a press release, and then she asks liberals across the country to send her money. And Ted, I'm going to give you one good example.
Please.
I was just in Yuma a few months ago with the Maricopa County Sheriff, Jerry Sheridan. He's the chairman of our campaign. And we were down at the border. And to a great extent, it's secure. President Trump's done a great job. But we visited the Yuma Medical Center. And the Yuma Medical Center, during the Biden surges, provided over $20 million worth of unreimbursed services from the federal government to illegals. Imagine if we had an attorney general who, instead of filing lawsuits and sending out press releases to raise money, actually worked collaboratively on behalf of Arizona and could call the federal government and say, hey, you need to return that money. You need to provide those resources back to the Yuma Medical Center. We don't have someone that's working with everyone. We have someone working to file lawsuits to raise money so she can run for her next office.
Well, we also have someone who filed a lawsuit regarding the Trump executive order to limit ballots by mail, says it interferes with Arizona's mail-in ballot law. Again, was it wrong to go after the president, the administration, on something that a lot of Arizonans feel is, first of all, a right. Secondly, it's the law. I mean, what is she supposed to do?
What Chris Mays should be doing is working on behalf of Arizonans, not just filing lawsuits, sending out press releases.
But is filing lawsuits not working on behalf of Arizonans?
It's not, Ted, because she's not being successful with her lawsuits. The only thing she's been successful with is her fundraising. The reality is, and Ted, we're in this Republican primary right now. As you shared, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force JAG Corps. I'm a reservist out at Luke Air Force Base. What that means is that when I put on my uniform to go out to Luke, I run the active duty legal office of over 25 JAGs, paralegals, and support staff. That means that I've ran a law office. And the Attorney General runs the largest law office in the state, over 400 attorneys and 1,000 support staff, providing all the legal services for every state agency. If Chris May spent more time focused on the Department of Education, on helping Child Protective Services, on rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse with the 60 investigators that she has, instead of sending them to Florida to investigate an 85-year-old Mayor Rudy Giuliani because of the 2020 election, I believe that she would be doing a better job of serving Arizonans, and that's why I want to fire her this November.
You just said that she never wins. She just won as far as state voter registration rolls. The judge dismissed that case.
That's why my wife says never say never. But the reality is there's been 41 lawsuits filed. She has a losing record. And here's one of the challenges, Ted. We fund her lawsuits. The Arizona State Legislature, led by my primary opponent, who refused to show up tonight, sends the Attorney General's office money so that she can file these lawsuits. And when they fail, when her indictments fall, you know what she does? She just refiles them again. She's been milking the Arizona taxpayer in order to fundraise for her campaign. And that's the challenge. So I'll go back to your question, which is, as Attorney General, I will work collaboratively with the administration representing Arizonans. She ran on suing Trump. She ran on fighting to make sure that biological boys. That's what she ran on.
Yeah, we got that, and we can debate the idea of a losing record there, but we don't have time for that because I want to ask you a question, and a basic question. You're obviously very supportive of Donald Trump, President Trump. I got to ask you, are elections in Arizona rigged? Was the 2020 election in Arizona rigged so that Donald Trump could not win the presidency?
Ted, when I visit groups across Arizona, I ask one question, and I ask it everywhere I go. Do you think that Arizona currently enforces the election laws that are on the books? And the answer everywhere I go is no. Did you know that ballot harvesting in Arizona is illegal?
Yes, I do know that.
Did you know that drop boxes are supposed to be monitored?
I also know that I asked you a question regarding the 2020 election.
We'll never know. And the reason we'll never know,
Why won't we
Ted,
never know? Because the only
person that could have opened an investigation in 2020 secured the ballots, secured the election materials, not have had issues with chain of custody, and actually done an investigation would have been the Attorney General. Ted, 2006, do you remember in southern Arizona there was a Regional Transportation Authority election? And down there, it wasn't supposed to pass. There was polling. And the polling said it wasn't supposed to pass, and at the last minute it did. And Democrats in southern Arizona, they cried, election fraud. Who did they call? The Attorney General, who came down to southern Arizona, who secured the ballots, reran the election. What was the name of that Attorney General in 2006?
Larry
Goddard.
Yeah, let's get back though to the idea that you can't say, and I ask this of Republicans a lot because it's almost a litmus test now. You can't say that Donald Trump lost Arizona in 2020.
Ted,
can you say it?
That wasn't the question that you asked. You said, was the election stolen? Was there issues?
Okay, was there?
And I asked you the question, whose job was it to do that?
A response.
We will never know, Ted, because the only person that could have opened an investigation, secured the ballots, and rooted that out would have been the Attorney General, who didn't do his job. But it brings up a good issue. If we have an Attorney General like Chris Mays, or an Attorney General like my current primary opponent, Warren Peterson, neither of them have ever served as a prosecutor. And that's a challenge because the Attorney General is a prosecutor.
This is a primary election that we're talking about here. You are running against Warren Peterson here. Why should Republican voters trust someone who can't even admit to an election result that has been challenged so many times? There's never been any proof that there was a rigged election in Arizona. Zero.
Ted,
none.
There was no investigation.
There have been. You can't.
There was information brought to the Attorney General's office, and the Attorney General, may he rest in peace, did not open investigation, did not secure the ballots, did not follow chain of custody.
Why do you think he did not? He's Attorney General.
Oh, that's easy, because he was running for United States Senate.
He's a Republican Attorney General. Why did he not open an investigation?
Because he was running for United States Senate. And Ted, may he rest in peace. He was a good man. His wife is a very decorated judge. She has 2 wonderful daughters. But at the end of the day, Ted, you asked, and my response is, we will never know. But what I can tell you, as the Attorney General, I will enforce Arizona. No, you asked, was it stolen? I said, We will never know because no one ever did an investigation.
Because there was, I can't open an investigation on whether or not you come from Mars.
Right, because you know why? Because you're not the Attorney General, but Chris Mays, the current Attorney General, does.
That you come from Mars.
And how do you get evidence, Ted?
You have to show evidence.
How do you get evidence, Ted?
You do an investigation.
Right, but the only person in Arizona in charge of investigating and prosecuting elections
I still can't get you to say
General.
that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election.
The election was certified. You asked if it was stolen, and I said no one was willing to do the investigation.
Last question here. Again, I'm asking why you're running for this particular office because we've met before. We've had conversations before. You've run for Corporation Commission, Maricopa County Assessor, Attorney General in 2020. You ran against John McCain as a Democrat years ago. You were a Democrat until 2015. Why are you now a Republican?
Like President Trump, like President Reagan, and like countless of your viewers, I'm sure, I left the Democrat Party. I studied and went to law school down at the University of Arizona, and the Democrat Party that I was a part of in 2010 has gone insane. Their current Attorney General is busy filing lawsuits so biological boys can compete against girls. That's not the party that I was a part of. And during that same period, Ted, I got married, had 2 daughters, served in the military. I'm now a lieutenant colonel at Luke. And on June 16th, 2015, the day that President Trump announced, I registered Republican, and I'm proud to be a Republican. And I hope more Arizonans will focus on the fact that we need to be focused on protecting Arizona's law enforcement, our kids, and our prosperity. And those are right now Republican priorities.
Last question. Republican primary, Republican voters have a choice. Either the president of the state Senate or you. Why should they choose you over him?
Ted, I'm a lieutenant colonel in the JAG Corps as a reservist. I've been a practicing attorney for 20 years. My Republican primary opponent, Warren Peterson, who's 50 years old, got his law license 28 months ago. He's never had a client. He's never prosecuted a criminal. He doesn't even carry errors and omission insurance. And if Republicans nominate a candidate with 0 experience as a lawyer to run against Chris Mays, the only thing we're going to get is 4 more years of Chris Mays, and we cannot afford that here in Arizona.
Rodney Glassman, again, Attorney General candidate, Republican running for office. Sir, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And our next AZ Votes Candidates in Conversation is set for Tuesday as we hear from candidates running in the Republican primary for Arizona's 1st Congressional District. That's Tuesday, May 5th at 5 p.m. and again at 10 p.m. right here on Arizona Horizon. And a reminder that all episodes of Candidates in Conversation are live streamed on YouTube at AZPBS Now and can be viewed as well at azpbs.org.
The Navajo Nation and some of the other communities we work with are very isolated.
Like if there's an event in Tuba City and you live in Kayenta, that's 100 miles.
Access is so important. I am not aware of any other kind of program like this because it's keeping that artistic access open.
I love working at Arizona PBS for many reasons.
The people. I'm fortunate to work with some really talented individuals.
I was shocked, like I was going to work for the place that produced Sesame Street.
I love that we have such a strong community impact.
Because I get to tell the stories of Arizona.
Really, there's no job more fulfilling than using your skills and talents and abilities to enrich your communities.
The creativity and the passion of my colleagues.
It's just a great place and I love being here.
Hi, I'm Catherine Anaya, host of Horizonte, the groundbreaking program that has served as a platform for Arizona's Latino community for more than 2 decades.
Latinos care about issues across the board, just like everyone else.
There's a lot of diversity in thought and opinion. We just need to make sure parents understand the value in having multilingual students.
We like to hear our voices heard. Stream episodes online at azpbs.org, YouTube, or on the PBS app.
Former FBI Director James Comey was indicted this week by the Justice Department over a social media post. A federal grand jury charged Comey with making a threat against President Trump and transmitting that threat across state lines. The threat involves a photo of seashells on a beach spelling out the numbers 86 and 47. And for more on all this, we welcome former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, a partner of the law firm of Dentons. Paul, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
This is not the first time that he's been indicted by this particular Justice Department.
It isn't, Ted, and in fact, that very fact is going to be one of the defenses which I think is going to carry a great deal of merit. This looks very much like selective or vindictive prosecution. As you know, there have been a number of public calls by the President of the United States that Jim Comey be charged with some offense, any offense. He did that with the previous Attorney General, Pam Bondi. He's doing it now with Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General. And so this prosecution has received a great deal of criticism because this is a follow-up prosecution for one that's already been dismissed. And criticism is coming from the right, not just from the left. Your viewers may recognize the name Andrew McCarthy, who writes for the National Review, or Jonathan Turley, who often makes commentary on Fox News. They're both legal commentators, lawyers themselves. Both of them have been highly critical of this prosecution, with Jonathan Turley calling it specious.
Oh, help me make sense of this now. There are seashells on the shore, and someone writes out 86 and then 47. Did Comey arrange the shells?
We don't know if he arranged the shells. He says he went down on the beach, saw these shells arranged as they were, took a picture, and then posted the picture. That's his narrative, which, by the way, for the last year has been wholly consistent. In addition to that fact, Ted, what Jim Comey has said is, I had no idea that 86 meant that you should do harm or kill anybody. I thought it meant get rid of. My wife thought it was something that took place often in the restaurant industry. She worked in many restaurants. That's what we understood it to mean. I had no intent. And that question, Ted, intent of the person who is speaking, although in this instance it's numbers and symbols, the intent issue is going to be absolutely critical for a jury if this ever gets to a jury.
So, and the Justice Department said that a, quote, reasonable person would see that this is a, quote, serious expression of intent to do harm to President Trump. What do you make of that?
It's interesting, isn't it, Ted? Because that standard, what a reasonable person seeing that would think, isn't the standard. The standard is, and the Supreme Court said in 2023 in a case called Counterman, the standard isn't what we might see and decide what it means. It's what the person sharing the statement meant and intended. So in this instance, what the government is going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt to unanimous verdict is that Jim Comey knew that people would interpret 8647 as a threat to kill or harm the President of the United States. And even knowing that, he sent this out and shared this comment with people. That's going to be a very difficult burden for the government to meet.
And when the government tries to meet that burden, the president's own words, especially when they come to James Comey, how much do those words come into play?
A great deal, because the Constitution of the United States not only protects the kind of free speech that may be involved here, political speech. I don't want this to be our next president, not because I wish harm upon him, but I wish somebody else was in the office. But there's also a free speech attachment that relates to what we're allowed to say and what we're allowed to do, and we ought not to be prosecuted for what we say publicly. And in this instance, what has happened often is that the president has said, I want this individual prosecuted. He has targeted, he has selected this person for prosecution, and it is in many ways, and many commentators believe, vindictive. And that in and of itself, Ted, is a reason for the court to dismiss this case well before it even gets to a jury.
What about the repeated references that James Comey is a dirty cop? The president likes to use that particular phrase. Does that come into play?
It may, and all of it may come into play. Here's another example of how something may come into play that's a little bit of inside baseball, but I think we're going to see it in the pleadings as we go forward. The prosecutors here asked for an arrest warrant. And when you ask for an arrest warrant, you're typically allowed to do so for two reasons. One, you believe that the individual is a flight threat, he's going to leave the country somehow, or a threat to the community. Neither of those can reasonably be said to be true for Jim Comey. But the fact that the government wanted a perp walk, if you will, wanted to issue an arrest warrant as opposed to a summons, an invitation to come to court and face these charges, is in and of itself the kind of evidence that his lawyers, very capable lawyers, are going to put before the judge to say, this isn't the kind of prosecution that takes place when someone is reasonably trying to stop, as we would all want someone to stop, true threat to the President of the United States.
The Justice Department in general, with this particular action, is this literally a job application, a resume for Todd Blanche? Is he proving to the president that he will do the president's bidding?
It feels very much that way. There was a press conference the other day in which Todd Blanche said, if I were asked to be the next Attorney General in a permanent fashion, I would say yes, and I love you, Mr. President. Those are the words that we typically don't hear from people who want to be the Attorney General of the United States. It may very well be true, and that's fine if that's the way he feels, but you're looking for a little bit of gravitas. You're looking for somebody who can be a bit distant from the President of the United States. You want a Department of Justice that is going to be relatively independent and make decisions not based upon affection for a president, not based upon political affiliation for the president, but based upon the facts and the law. And as it relates to Jim Comey, we've seen repeatedly that's not what's happened.
Last question here. Obviously, a couple dozen folks in a federal grand jury decided that there was enough here to charge Comey. What do we make of that?
That's a very interesting point, Ted, because as you'll recall previously, they weren't able to make a case against Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York. The grand jurors said no. There's a very famous saying that in grand juries will indict a ham sandwich. But that's not what's happening now at the Department of Justice in the Eastern District of Virginia and in Washington. So it'll be very interesting to see, won't it, what the transcripts show, exactly how it is these prosecutors presented the evidence in such a way as to convince these grand jurors that Jim Comey was deserving of prosecution.
Paul Charlton, again, former U.S. Attorney. This is just fascinating stuff. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ted.
Phoenix is set to host a national conference on handling heat-related issues. The event, I should say, is titled the 122-Degree Conference, and it's scheduled for December with the goal of finding solutions to heat effects on health, housing, and energy costs. Joining us now is Taylor Pineda. She's with the Arizona Community Foundation. Good to have you here. Welcome to Arizona Horizon.
Thank you.
All right, 122-degree conference set for Phoenix, thankfully in December. Good idea. But this conference is about what?
Yeah, well, I actually tried to convince them to do it in June, but I lost that. So the 122 convening is really about mobilizing the community to address issues of extreme heat. We know issues of extreme heat impact everyone, and these issues are really prevalent across our entire state. We have wonderful community leaders working in nonprofits across Arizona, as well as tribal communities, and our municipalities are all trying to tackle these issues. But what we're finding is that there lacks some cohesion in how we're looking at addressing this. And so the convening is about bringing all those people together that are working on great work and bringing them to a space where they can share knowledge, share resources, and we can actually start to align investment to start to scale some of these solutions.
Is there a national aspect to this, bringing people out here because we know our heat in Arizona?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there's two different ways that we're approaching some of the national collaboration. One is that there are desert climates across the entire world. So how do we look at practices, whether it be in the European Union or it be in our with colleagues in Mexico that have really addressed a lot of urban planning in Mexico City? How do you start to share some of those learnings and have them participate in the conference alongside our local leaders? So we're really trying to bring that balance of the national and international expertise alongside our local leaders. And we also know that there is a gap of funding tackling these issues in Arizona. And so we are working with some national foundations to bring them into the conversation as well.
Yeah, it's not academic here. It's real life. It's everyday life. Impact on public health, heat impact on public health, especially with those who are least able to adapt.
Yes. So health is one of those intersections that impacts many of our different focus areas that we have at Arizona Community Foundation. But what we have seen is an increase in extreme heat-related deaths across Arizona. So part of the focus is going to be talking about approaches to addressing issues of urban heat. And some of our partners that we're working with, whether it be the Desert Botanical Gardens, organizations like the Nature Conservancy, have been doing a lot of this great work. And how do we bring them together alongside the Chief Resiliency Officer, as well as we're working across the I-10 corridor with different states that are addressing similar issues too.
And water security, food issues, I mean, heat, that's a factor there as well, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we wanted to focus the conference on the umbrella of extreme heat. But just as you named, issues of sustainable food systems, issues of natural resource conservation, it really impacts everybody. And so you can't just look at it as how do we make it cooler, but how do we have agriculture and systems that are sustainable for our communities.
And again, the conference sounds like how best to turn some of these ideas into impact. Correct?
Absolutely. And how do you attract investment to do so? So one of the things that Arizona Community Foundation began a couple years ago, we've been around for 47 years doing great work, but one of the challenges we had is how are we really moving the needle to outcomes in the state of Arizona? And so the environmental pillar has given us an opportunity to really identify key issues that we want to see moving forward. But what we hear a lot from our donors and what we hear even at a national level is that Arizona doesn't have necessarily the infrastructure for large-scale investments. And what we're seeing is actually we have so many great things happening around the community, but there is a chance to bring them together and to be a little bit more coordinated to be ready to receive.
That infrastructure and the reliability of that infrastructure.
Absolutely.
Last question, I got 15, 20 seconds here. So real quickly, what do you want to see come out of this?
I want to see people from all different walks of life in Arizona, whether it be municipalities, tribal communities, local grassroots nonprofits, and large credible institutions coming together to think about collective impact and collective solutions, not just from one vantage point, but from a community-driven perspective.
All right. Taylor Pineda, again, Arizona Community Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening. I like to think that at Arizona Horizon we are unique in the way that we present information, public policy, sometimes news, these sorts of things, because we have conversations. And I don't want conversations that human interaction